Hello and welcome to the Cultured Bumpkin, you cultured bumpkins. I've been writing a lot lately, and so I've been reading a lot. And one of my favorite ways to sample an author is through the medium of short stories, or even novellas, like Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. That's a very short, story, but it's amazing. The dialogue's amazing. I've been reading some Ernest Hemingway, and then O. Henry. Oh, Henry. Wow. Amazing stuff. I read several over the past week, and this story is set out west as it opens, and it's got some rude stuff in it, you might say. So if you got little kids, you might want to listen to it first. Just kind of how he talks about people, and then there's a couple little words in there as well. Nothing vulgar, but also, just depending on what you let your kids listen to. But this is a great story. This is fantastic. And, I hope you enjoy it. It's called You're Listening to The Cultured Bumpkin, a literature podcast with Jake Phillips, where we present audiobook quality readings of the classics for your enjoyment. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, just because you're a bumpkin doesn't mean you can't be cultured. A Double-Eyed Deceiver by O. Henry. Read by Jake Phillips. The trouble began in Laredo. It was the Llano Kid's fault, for he should have confined his habit of manslaughter to Mexicans. But the kid was past 20, and to have only Mexicans to one's credit at 20 is to blush unseen on the Rio Grande border. It happened in old Justo Valdo's gambling house. There was a poker game at which sat players who were not all friends, as happens often where men ride in from afar to shoot Folly as she gallops. There was a row over so small a matter as a pair of queens, and when the smoke had cleared away, it was found that the kid had committed an indiscretion, and his adversary had been guilty of a blunder. Instead of being a greaser, was a high-blooded youth from the cow ranches, of about the kid's own age and possessed of friends and champions. His blunder in missing the kid's right ear, only a 16th of an inch when he pulled his gun, did not lessen the indiscretion of the better marksman. The kid, not being equipped with a retinue, nor bountifully supplied with personal admirers and supporters, on account of a rather umbrageous reputation, even for the border, considered it not incompatible with his indispensable gameness to perform that judicious tractional act known as pulling his freight. Quickly the avengers gathered and sought him. 3 of them overtook him within a rod of the station. The kid turned and showed his teeth in that brilliant but mirthless smile that usually preceded his deeds of insolence and violence, and his pursuers fell back without making it necessary for him to even reach for his weapon. But in this affair, the kid had not felt the grim thirst for encounter that usually urged him on to battle. It had been a purely chance row, born of the cards and certain epithets impossible for a gentleman to brook that had passed between the two. The kid had rather liked the slim, haughty, brown-faced young chap whom his bullet had cut off in the first pride of manhood, and now he wanted no more blood. He wanted to get away and have a good long sleep somewhere in the sun on the mesquite grass with his handkerchief over his face. Even a Mexican might have crossed his path in safety while he was in this mood. The kid openly boarded the northbound passenger train that departed 5 minutes later. But at Webb, a few miles out, where it was flagged to take on a traveler, he abandoned that manner of escape. There were telegraph stations ahead, and the kid looked askance at electricity and steam. Saddle and spur were his rocks of safety. The man whom he had shot was a stranger to him, but the kid knew that he was of the Corralitos outfit from Hidalgo, and that the punchers from that ranch were more relentless and vengeful than Kentucky feudists when wrong or harm was done to one of them. So with the wisdom that has characterized many great farmers, the kid decided to pile up as many leagues as possible of chaparral and pear between himself and the retaliation of the Corralitos bunch. Near the station was a store, and near the store, scattered among the mesquites and elms, stood the saddled horses of the customers. Most of them waited, half asleep, with sagging limbs and drooping heads. But one, a long-legged roan with a curved back, snorted and pawed the turf. Him the kid mounted, gripped with his knees, and slapped gently with the owner's own quirt. If the slaying of the temerarious card-player had cast a cloud over the kid's standing as a good and true citizen, this last act of his veiled his figure in the darkest shadows of disrepute. On the Rio Grande border, if you take a man's life, you sometimes take trash. But if you take his horse, you take a thing the loss of which renders him poor indeed, and which enriches you not, if you're caught. For the kid, there was no turning back now. With the springing roan under him, he felt little care or uneasiness. After a 5-mile gallop, he drew it in to the plainsman's jogging trot, and he rode northeastward toward the Nueces River bottoms. He knew the country well, its most tortuous and obscure trails through the great wilderness of brush and pear, and its camps and lonesome ranches where one might find safe entertainment. Always he bore to the east, for the kid had never seen the ocean, and he had a fancy to lay his hand upon the mane of the great Gulf, the gamesome colt of the greater waters. So after 3 days, he stood on the shore at Corpus Christi and looked out across the gentle ripples of a quiet sea. Captain Boone of the schooner Flyaway stood near his skiff, which one of his crew was guarding in the surf. When ready to sail, he discovered that one of the necessaries of life, in the parallelogrammatic shape of plug tobacco, had been forgotten. A sailor had been dispatched for the missing cargo. Meanwhile, the captain paced the sands, chewing profanely at his pocket store. A slim, wiry youth in high-heeled boots came down to the water's edge. His face was boyish, but with a premature severity that hinted at a man's experience. His complexion was naturally dark, and the sun and wind of an outdoor life had burned it to a coffee brown. His hair was as black and straight as an Indian's. His face had not yet upturned to the humiliation of a razor. His eyes were a cold and steady blue. He carried his left arm somewhat away from his body, for pearl-handled .45s are frowned upon by town marshals, and are a little bulky when placed in the left armhole of one's vest. He looked beyond Captain Boone at the Gulf with the impersonal and expressionless dignity of a Chinese emperor. "Thinking of buying that there Gulf, buddy?" asked the captain, made sarcastic by his narrow escape from the tobaccoless voyage. "Why, no," said the kid gently. "I reckon not. I never saw it before. I was just looking at it. Not thinking of selling it, are you?" "Not this trip," said the captain. "I'll send it to you cash on delivery when we get back to Buenos Aires. There comes that capstan lubber with the chewing. I ought to weighed anchor an hour ago." "Is that your ship out there?" asked the kid. "Why, yes," answered the captain. "If you want to call a schooner a ship, but I don't mind lying. But you better say Miller and Gonzalez owners and ordinary plain Billy be damned old Samuel K. Boone skipper." "Where are you going to?" asked the refugee. "Buenos Aires, coast of South America. I forgot what they called the country last time I was there. Cargo, lumber, corrugated iron, machetes." "What kind of country is it?" asked the kid. "Hot or cold?" "Warmish, buddy," said the captain, "but a regular paradise lost for elegance of scenery and beauty of geography. You're wakened every morning by the sweet singing of the redbirds with 7 purple tails and the sighing of breezes and the posies and roses, for they can reach out and pick steamer baskets of the choicest hothouse fruit without getting out of bed. And there's no Sunday, and no ice, and no rent, and no troubles, and no use, and no nothing. It's a great country for a man to go to sleep with and wait for something to turn up. The bananas and oranges and hurricanes and pineapples that you eat comes from there." "That sounds to me," said the kid, at last betraying interest. "What'll the expressage be to take me out there with you?" $24, said Captain Boone. "Grub and transportation. Second cabin. I haven't got a first cabin." "You got company," said the kid, pulling out a buckskin bag. With $300, he had gone to Laredo for his regular blowout. The duel in Valdo's had cut short his season of hilarity, but it had left him with nearly $200 for aid in the flight that it had made necessary. "All right, buddy," said the captain. "Hope your ma won't blame me for this little childish escapade of yours." He beckoned to one of the boat's crew. Let Sanchez lift you out to the skiff so you don't get your feet wet." Thacker, the United States consul at Buenos Aires, was not yet drunk. It was only 11 o'clock, and he had never arrived at his desired state of beatitude, a state wherein he sang ancient maudlin vaudeville songs and pelted his screaming parrot with banana peels until the middle of the afternoon. So when he looked up from his hammock at the sound of a slight cough and saw the kids standing in the door of the consulate, he was still in a condition to extend the hospitality and courtesy due from the representative of a great nation. "Don't disturb yourself," said the kid easily. "I just dropped in. They told me it was customary to light at your camp before starting in to round up the town. I just came in on a ship from Texas." "Glad to see you, Mr. said the consul. The kid laughed. "Sprague Dalton," he said. "It sounds funny to me to hear it. I'm called the Llano Kid in the Rio Grande country." "I'm Thacker," said the consul. "Take that cane-bottomed chair. Now, if you've come to invest, you want somebody to advise you. These dingies will cheat you right out of the gold in your teeth if you don't understand their ways. Try a cigar?" "Much obliged," said the kid. "But if it wasn't for my corn shucks and a little bag in my back pocket, I couldn't live a minute." He took out his makings and rolled a cigarette. "They speak Spanish here," said the consul. "You'll need an interpreter. If there's anything I can do, why, I'd be delighted. If you're buying fruit lands or looking for a concession of any sort, you'll want somebody who knows the ropes to look out for you." "I speak Spanish," said the kid, "about 9 times better than I do English. Everybody speaks it on the range where I come from, and I'm not in the market for anything." "You speak Spanish," said Thacker thoughtfully. He regarded the kid absorbedly. "You look like a Spaniard, too," he continued. "And you're from Texas. And you can't be more than 20 or 21. I wonder if you got any nerve." "You got a deal of some kind to put through?" asked the Texan with unexpected shrewdness. "Are you open to a proposition?" said Thacker. "What's the use to deny it?" said the kid. "I got into a little gun frolic down in Laredo and plugged a white man. There wasn't any Mexican handy. And I've come down to your parrot and monkey range just to smell the morning glories and marigolds. Now, do you sabe?" Thacker got up and closed the door. "Let me see your hand," he said. He took the kid's left hand and examined the back of it closely. "I can do it," he said excitedly. "Your flesh is as hard as wood and healthy as a baby's. It'll heal in a week." "If it's a fist fight you want to back me for," said the kid, "don't put your money up yet. Make it gun work and I'll keep you company, but no bare-handed scrapping like ladies at a tea party for me." "It's easier than that," said Thacker. "Just step in here, will you?" Through the window he pointed to a 2-story, white-stuccoed house with the wide galleries rising amid the deep green tropical foliage on a wooded hill that sloped gently from the sea. "In that house," said Thacker, "a fine old Castilian gentleman and his wife are yearning to gather you into their arms and fill your pockets with money. Old Santos Urique lives there. He owns half of the gold mines in the country. You hadn't been eating loco weed, have you?" asked the kid. "Sit down again," said Thacker, "and I'll tell you. 12 years ago, they lost a kid. No, he didn't die, although most of them down here do from drinking the surface water. He was a wild little devil, even if he wasn't but 8 years old. Everybody knows about it. Some Americans who were through here prospecting for gold had letters for Senor Enrique, and the boy was a favorite with them. They filled his head with big stories about the States, and about a month after they left, the kid disappeared too. He was supposed to have stowed away himself among the banana bunches on a fruit steamer and gone to New Orleans. He was seen once afterward in Texas, it was thought, but they never heard anything more of him. Old Urique has spent thousands of dollars having him looked for. The madam was broken up worst of all. The kid was her life. She wears mourning yet, but they say she believes he'll come back to her someday and never gives up hope. On the back of the boy's left hand was tattooed a flying eagle carrying a spear in his claws. That's old Urique's coat of arms, or something that he inherited in Spain. The kid raised his left hand slowly and gazed at it curiously. "That's it," said Thacker, reaching behind the official desk for his bottle of smuggled brandy. "You're not so slow. I can do it. What was I consul at Sandakan for? I never knew till now. In a week, I'll have the eagle bird with the frog sticker blended in so you'd think you were born with it. I brought a set of needles and ink just because I was sure you'd drop in someday, Mr. Dalton." "Oh, hell," said the kid. "I thought I told you my name." "All right, kid then. It won't be that long. How does Señorito Eureka sound for a change?" "I never played son any that I remember of," said the kid. "If I had any parents to mention, they were over the divide about the time I gave my first bleat. What was the plan of your roundup?" Thacker leaned back against the wall and held his glass up to the light. "We've come now," said he, "to the question of how far you're willing to go in a little matter of the sort." "Well, I told you why I came down here," said the kid simply. "A good answer," said the consul, "but you won't have to go that far. Here's the scheme. After I get the trademark tattooed on your hand, I'll notify old Eureka. In the meantime, I'll furnish you with all of the family history I can find out so you can be studying up on points to talk about. You've got the looks, you speak the Spanish, you know the facts, you can tell about Texas, you've got the tattoo mark. When I notify them that the rightful heir has returned and is waiting to know whether he'll be received and pardoned, what will happen? They'll simply rush down here and fall on your neck, and the curtain goes down for refreshments and a stroll in the lobby." "Well, I'm waiting," said the kid. "I haven't had my saddle off in your camp long, partner, and I never met you before. But if you intend to let it go at a parental blessing, why, I'm mistaken in my man, that's all." "Thanks," said the consul. "I haven't met anybody in a long time that keeps up with an argument as well as you do. The rest of it's simple. If they take you in only for a while, it's long enough. Don't give 'em time to hunt up the strawberry mark on your left shoulder. Old Eureka keeps anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 in his house all the time, in a little safe that you could open with a shoe buttoner. Get it? My skill as a tattooer is worth half the bottle. We go halves and catch a tramp steamer for Rio de Janeiro. Let the United States go to pieces if it can't get along without my services. ¿Qué dice, senor?" "It sounds to me," said the kid, nodding his head, "I'm out for the dust." "All right, then," said Thacker. "You'll have to keep close until we get the bird on you. You can live in the back room here. I do my own cooking, and I'll make you as comfortable as a parsimonious government will allow me." Thacker had set the time at a week, but it was 2 weeks before the design that he had patiently tattooed upon the kid's hand was to his notion. And then Thacker called a muchacho and dispatched this note to the intended victim. "El Señor Don Santos Eureka La Casablanca. My dear sir, I beg permission to inform you that there is in my house as a temporary guest a young man who has arrived in Buenos Aires from the United States some days ago. Without wishing to excite any hopes that may not be realized, I think there is a possibility of his being your long-absent son. It might be well for you to call and see him. If he is, it is my opinion that his intention was to return to his home, but upon arriving here, his courage failed him from doubts as to how he would be received. Your true servant, Thompson Thacker." Half an hour afterward, quick time for Buenos Aires, Señor Enrique's ancient landau drove to the consul's door, with the barefooted coachman beating and shouting at the team of fat, awkward horses. A tall man with a white mustache alighted and assisted to the ground a lady who was dressed and veiled in unrelieved black. The two hastened inside and were met by Thacker with his best diplomatic bow. By his desk stood a slender young man with clear-cut, sun-browned features and smoothly brushed black hair. Señora Eureka threw back her veil with a quick gesture. She was past middle age, and her hair was beginning to silver, but her full, proud figure and clear olive skin retained traces of the beauty peculiar to the Basque region. But once you had seen her eyes and comprehended the great sadness that was revealed in their deep shadows and hopeless expression, you saw that the woman lived only in some memory. She bent upon the young man a long look of the most agonized questioning. Then her great black eyes turned, and her gaze rested upon his left hand. And then, with a sob, not loud, but seeming to shake the room, she cried, "Io mio!" and caught the Llano kid to her heart. A month afterward, the kid came to the consulate in response to a message sent by Thacker. He looked the young Spanish caballero. His clothes were imported, and the wiles of the jewelers had not been spent upon him in vain. And more than one respectable diamond shone upon his finger as he rolled a shuck cigarette. "What's wrong?" asked Thacker. "Nothing much," said the kid calmly. "I eat my first iguana steak today. They're big lizards, you sabe? I reckon, though, that frijoles and side bacon would do me about as well. Do you care for iguanas, Thacker?" "No, nor for other kinds of reptiles," said Thacker. It was 3 p.m, and in another hour he would be in his state of beatitude. "It's time you were making good, Sonny," he went on, with an ugly look on his reddened face. "You're not playing up to me square. You've been the prodigal son for 4 weeks now, and you could have had veal for every meal on a gold dish if you wanted it. Now, Mr. Kid, do you think it's right to leave me out so long on a husk diet? What's the trouble? Don't you get your filial eyes on anything that looks like cash at the Casablanca? Don't tell me you don't. Everybody knows where old Eureke keeps his stuff. It's U.S. currency, too. He don't accept anything else. What's doing? Don't say nothing this time." "Why, sure," said the kid, admiring his diamond. "There's plenty of money up there. I'm no judge of collateral in bunches, but I'll undertake for to say that I've seen the rise of $50,000 at a time in that tin grub box that my adopted father calls his safe. And he lets me carry the key sometimes just to show that he knows I'm the real Francisco that strayed from the herd a long time ago." "Well, what are you waiting for?" asked Thacker angrily. "Don't you forget that I can upset your apple cart any day I want to. If old Eureke knew you were an imposter, what sort of things would happen to you? Oh, you don't know this country, Mr. Texas Kid. The laws here have got mustard spread between them. These people here'd stretch you out like a frog that had been stepped on, and give you about 50 sticks at every corner of the plaza. And they'd wear every stick out, too. What was left of you, they'd feed to the alligators." "Well, I might just as well tell you now, partner," said the kid, sliding down low on his steamer chair, "that things are going to stay just as they are. They're about right now." "What do you mean?" asked Thacker, rattling the bottom of his glass on his desk. "The scheme's off," said the kid, "and whenever you have the pleasure of speaking to me, address me as Don Francisco Eureke. I guarantee I'll answer to it. We'll let Colonel Eureke keep his money. His little tin safe is as good as the time locker in the First National Bank of Laredo as far as you and I are concerned." "You're going to throw me down then, aren't you?" said the consul. "Sure," said the kid cheerfully. "Throw you down, that's it. And now I'll tell you why. The first night I was up at the colonel's house, they introduced me to a bedroom. No blankets on the floor, a real room with a bed and things in it. And before I was asleep, in comes this artificial mother and tucks in the covers. 'Panchito,' she says, 'my little lost one, God has brought you back to me. I bless his name forever.' It was that or some truck like that she said. And down comes a drop or two of rain and hits me on the nose. And all that stuck by me, Mr. Thacker, and it's been that way ever since. And it's got to stay that way. Don't you think that it's for what's in it for me either that I say so. If you have any such ideas, keep 'em to yourself. I haven't had much truck with women in my life, and no mothers to speak of. But here's a lady that we've got to keep fooled. Once she stood it. Twice she won't. I'm a low-down wolf, and the devil may have sent me on this trail instead of God, but I'll travel it to the end. And now don't forget that I'm Don Francisco Eureke whenever you happen to mention my name." "I'll expose you today, you double-dyed traitor," stammered Thacker. The kid arose and, without violence, took Thacker by the throat with a hand of steel and shoved him slowly into a corner. Then he drew from under his left arm his pearl-handled .45 and poked the cold muzzle of it against the consul's mouth. "I told you why I come here," he said with his old freezing smile. "If I leave here, you'll be the reason. Never forget it, partner. Now what's my name?" "Don Francisco Eureke," gasped Thacker. From outside came the sound of wheels, and the shouting of someone, and the sharp thwacks of a wooden whipstock on the backs of fat horses. The kid put up his gun and walked toward the door. But he turned again and came back to the trembling Thacker and held up his left hand with his back toward the console. "There's one more reason," he said slowly, "why things have got to stand as they are. The fellow I killed in Laredo had one of them same pictures on his left hand." Outside, the ancient landau of Don Santos Urique rattled to the door. The coachman ceased his bellowing. Senora Urique, in a voluminous gay gown of white lace and flying ribbons, leaned forward with a happy look in her great soft eyes. "Are you within, dear son?" she called in the rippling Castilian. "Madre mia, yo vengo, mother, I come," answered the young Don Francisco Urique. Wow. Was that a story or was that a story? I love that. O. Henry had what he called a snapper at the end of a lot of his stories, where it's sort of a little twist ending or a little something extra at the end. And I really like that story. And also, if you want to hear long full-length audiobooks, you check out my YouTube. And then if you want to hear them without any commercials and you want to support the podcast, check out my Patreon. Links in the bio. Thank you very much for listening. You've been listening to The Cultured Bumpkin, a literature podcast with Jake Phillips. Thank you very much for listening. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed this, would you mind going and subscribing and leaving a nice review on whatever podcast platform you heard this on? I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.